Welcome along to the Super 8 Rescue 8-track fail. When I tested this out last weekend, I was only concerned that it actually played anything, and I didn't really hook it up to anything to hear how it sounded. And the first thing we've got to do is change that awful old plug for a modern safety plug, because you can see the old white plug has got no insulation on the positive and the negative, and that's not good. I've got everything I need: deoxit, foam cleaner, bit of IPA in my toolbox, a little bit of grease. That deoxit is very expensive, but it's well worth having. It's over £20 for a little spray can like that, but it will sort out your volume knobs. Although I didn't know until I had a closer look that these volume knobs and the tone control have taken a serious hit at some point. The wiper arm has dropped off of the tone control, so that's not going to help with the sound at all, because you can't adjust the tone quality. I need to remove that mains lead as well, because it doesn't have a polarity on it. There's no blue and brown. It's just two wires. So you never know whether you've wired up the positive to the neutral or the neutral to the positive. So we'll put a new mains lead on it with some proper coloured cables and a safety plug, which will be moulded, so there's no chance of anything happening to that. We'll remove the front cover. That's very tarnished, so we'll give that some foam cleaner and give that a good old scrub up. And then it's time to have a look at the inside. I'm not going to do too much to this. I want to get some IPA in there and just squirt away the dirt and clean the contacts. And then we'll put some deoxit on those contacts as well. First job though is to get rid of that old mains lead and put a new mains lead on there. That's a little bit safer, and of course we don't know the condition of that wire either. So a little solder tag board, we'll chop that away and solder in the new mains cable, which is a mains cable I rescued from an old Hoover. And I'm only using a 15 watt iron here, which is not really quite hot enough. I should have had my other iron, which is a 25 watt, but this should be alright just for these two joints. And this wire is a little bit thicker than the original wire, so where the cable grip goes through the chassis, I've had to do a little tiny bodge there, and I've put the cable grip back in. But I've just held it in place with a couple of cable ties on each side, two cable ties on the inside and one on the out, so that the cable can't move in or out. So we'll put a little bit of IPA in there and clean away the gump. There's a lot of dust and yuck in there, so that can all come out. And that back panel, which is the track selector, the little rotary contacts on it and circuit board, and then time for some deoxit. And when I squirted the deoxit into the right hand one, which is the tone control, the little wiper arm flew out, so that can't be replaced. And as you'll hear, the sound quality is dire when we do get to switch it on. Some dried up grease on the bottom of the capstan there on that bearing, so take the old grease out and just put the tiniest dab of grease in under there. And again, when I had this playing last week, I wasn't really listening to it. I just had headphones plugged in, and it was a quick 5-minute thing. But it's clear that this belt needs replacing, and that's the conundrum. I mean, they're only £3 for a belt, I think, but you'll hear in a minute where there's some sound coming that I've recorded, that it is really struggling to play. And that's not surprising, because it hasn't been used for over 40 years. So it's really struggling to turn that old capstan. But it's a real shame about the volume controls. They've taken a serious hit over the years. But there we are. We're still going to carry on and at least make a half decent job of it, even though if it doesn't give me the result that I was hoping for once it was plugged in and connected up. I do love these old machines. I think they're so clever. And I've said to Joan, who owns us, what do we do? I think there's not much point in taking the player home and listening to the tapes, because it's struggling to play them. Even with a new belt, the sound is going to be dire, because the volume knobs have taken such a hit over the years. And even with the deoxit in, it's not great, as you'll hear in a minute. We clean up the back RCA plugs with a little bit of IPA, and then we'll just go around Add a little bit of grease to the changer, for the head changer. Cleaner the heads. And then the case can have a quick old scrub. And we'll put it back together. So yeah, this belt now is really struggling to drive the tape, slipping like mad. And I haven't got. I've used IPA on the capstan just to clean off the old gunk. And I suppose the gunk on there last week that was on there was helping it pull the tape along, or pull the belt along. Now it's nice and clean and shiny. It's just slipping away on it. So it definitely needs a new belt. And if it sounded better, as you'll hear now, then I wouldn't mind putting a belt in, but the sound is so awful. So there we are, put it back together, and we'll go back and talk to Joan and see what she wants to do with it. I've suggested we give the player to a charity shop. I mean, it's safe now to go to charity, and she's got a great big box of 8-track tapes and maybe sell those on Facebook Marketplace. But that's for her to decide after she's seen this video. So there we are. That was a fun way to spend a Saturday morning though, pulling an old tape recorder apart and giving it a good old clean up. It's just a real shame we didn't get the result we were hoping for, but there we are.